Vladimir Putin's military resources have suffered another devastating strike after video captured a startling Ukrainian drone attack. President Putin's military forces have been rapidly depleted by Ukrainian troops operating remote drone attack systems. Video footage from Ukraine captured a startling explosion as a Russian tank erupting into a catastrophic storm of flames. Prior to the strike, the Russian Z symbol of support for the invasion of Ukraine can be seen painted brazenly across the front of the military vehicle. With intelligence reports suggesting Russia is already struggling to adequately supply invading forces, drone technology afforded to the Ukrainian military is set to further pummel the Kremlin's army. The system used in the attack has been identified as an unmanned combat aerial vehicle, more commonly referred to as a combat drone. The UK Ministry of Defence has recognized the effectiveness of such weapons in the defensive efforts, and the government has pledged to bolster Ukraine's military by supplying further drone systems. A statement from the Ministry of Defence said, "The UK will supply scores of artillery guns, hundreds of drones and hundreds more anti-tank weapons to Ukraine in the coming weeks." Defense Secretary Ben Wallace added, "The scale and range of equipment we are providing demonstrates the strength of our resolve." Following the success of Ukrainian drone attacks, the Kremlin has struggled to fulfill the demand for advanced military equipment on the front line. A government intelligence statement read, "Russia is unlikely to be capable of fulfilling some export orders for armored fighting vehicles because of the exceptional demand for vehicles in Russia's own forces in Ukraine and the increasing effect of Western sanctions." Russia has suffered the confirmed loss of over 5,000 pieces of advanced military equipment since the conflict began in February. The true statistics are likely to be far higher as the data only includes reported equipment losses that can be evidenced with photo or video proof. Considering tanks alone, President Putin's military has lost close to 1,000 vehicles, leaving the invading troops drastically under-equipped. In an analysis of recent Russian military activity in Ukraine, the Ministry of Defense said, "Russia has not been able to generate capable combat infantry in sufficient numbers to secure more substantial advances." Echoing Britain's military aid plan, global allies of Ukraine have pushed to supply more drone systems as the technology has proved highly effective on the battlefield. The U.S. has committed to delivering approximately 700 Phoenix Ghost drones for use among Ukraine's defending military forces. In the coming weeks, the UK is expected to announce a further package of military aid, including hundreds more sophisticated drone systems, in line with the support plan pledged by Boris Johnson in June. Ukraine's army has said 2 of its soldiers died in attacks on the front line, with Russian-backed separatists the first fatalities in the conflict in more than a month, as a result of a shelling attack. 2 Ukrainian servicemen received fatal shrapnel wounds, the military command for separatist conflict said. With Western nations fearing what could be one of the worst conflicts since the Cold War, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said Russian forces were beginning to uncoil and move closer to the border with its former Soviet neighbor. "We hope Putin steps back from the brink of conflict," Mr. Austin told a news conference in Lithuania, saying an invasion of Ukraine was not inevitable. Russia ordered the military build-up while demanding NATO prevent Ukraine ever joining the alliance, but says Western predictions that it is planning to invade Ukraine are wrong and dangerous. It says it is now pulling back. Washington and allies say the build-up is mounting. At the Munich Security Conference today, NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg has said all signs suggest Moscow is readying for a full-fledged attack on Ukraine. Russian-backed separatist leaders in eastern Ukraine declared a full military mobilization after ordering women and children to evacuate to Russia, citing the threat of an imminent attack by Ukrainian forces. Kyiv denied the accusation. It and Western leaders say the mobilization, evacuation, and increased shelling across the ceasefire line this week are part of a Russian plan to create a pretext for an invasion of Ukraine. Russia's FSB security service said 2 shells landed on Russian territory near the border, Russia's TASS news agency reported. One hit a building in Rostov region, but no one was hurt, it said. Ukraine's foreign minister denied any Ukrainian shells had hit Russian territory and demanded an independent international investigation of the alleged incidents. Ukraine's military accused Russia of faking pictures of shells to make out they were Ukrainian, and said mercenaries had arrived in separatist-held eastern Ukraine to stage provocations in collaboration with Russia's special services. The purpose of these provocations will, of course, be to accuse Ukraine of further escalation, it said. Multiple explosions were heard today in the north of the separatist-controlled city of Donetsk in eastern Ukraine, as more people got on buses to leave. A Reuters witness said the origin of the explosions was not immediately clear. Ukraine said one of its soldiers had been killed. "It's really scary. I've taken everything I could carry," said Tatiana, 30, who was boarding a bus with her 4-year-old daughter. U.S. President Joe Biden said on Friday he believed the capital Kyiv would be targeted by Russia, but that he did not think Mr. Putin was contemplating using nuclear weapons. Mr. Biden said Mr. Putin would invade in the coming days. "As of this moment, I am convinced that he has made the decision." The Kremlin said Russia had successfully test-launched hypersonic and cruise missiles at sea at land-based targets during its military exercises. Mr. Putin observed the exercises on screens with Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko from what the Kremlin called a situation center. Mr. Austin said the nuclear exercises were stoking concern among defense leaders around the world as Russia's military was focused on a huge buildup of forces around Ukraine, and there was a danger of an accident. The drills follow maneuvers by Russia's armed forces in the past 4 months that have included a buildup of troops estimated by the West to number 150,000 or more to the north, east, and south of Ukraine. Moscow-based analysts said the exercises were aimed at sending a message to take Russia's demands for security guarantees from NATO seriously after the alliance's expansion to Russia's borders since the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. Ignoring Russia's legitimate rights in this area adversely affects the stability not only on the European continent, but also in the world. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov was quoted by his ministry as telling France's foreign minister by phone. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said Russia knew the alliance could not meet its demands, which include the withdrawal of NATO forces from former communist East European states that have elected to join NATO. New helicopters and a battle group deployment of tanks, armored personnel carriers, and support equipment have deployed in Russia, near the border, according to US-based Maxar Technologies, which tracks developments with satellite imagery. The Kremlin also has troops staging exercises in Belarus, north of Ukraine, that are due to end on Sunday. Mr. Lukashenko said on Friday they could stay as long as needed.